delighted to welcome Duncan Buchanan onto the programme. How prepared is the Road Haulage Association, broadly speaking, Duncan, for the no-deal Brexit that Boris Johnson was punting yesterday?
Before we start, I'd just like to say thanks for bigging me up to such an extent.
Well, don't let me down, Duncan.
that makes me sound the oracle that will know all of the answers. And I think that all I can do is represent what our members see and the problems that our members are confronted with what's coming. And I think really a really important point to remember here is that as the logistics industry, as part of the logistics industry, we have to deal with hundreds and thousands of different types of regulations and different types of things that confront us on a daily, weekly and strategic basis. So from our point of view, all we're interested in is solving the problems of moving goods between point A and point B.
Right.
We have no other axe to grind other than we are representing our members who do this work and who want to do it in a clear, safe and consistent way.
So in many ways you speak of the importance of objective information and the avoidance of this exaltation to always be perceived as or picking a side. You're just talking about the facts.
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
We have rigorously taken a not in favour, not against, just we need to try and find a way to make whatever happens work.
Yes.
And that's all we're interested in doing. We're trying to find ways to make things work. And that's the context which we've come from for over 2 years.
So talk to me now about the UK's preparedness for a no-deal scenario kicking in October the 31st of this year.
For where we are today, there are huge, huge gaps. And there are huge gaps because what we're talking about in terms of bringing in new border controls is very complicated. Now, there are some things that are in place and have been put in place and were put in place for March and April. Contingency measures that allow trucks to move for 2019 without the need for permits. There are various other things that have been put in place. The problem we have is that for the border to work, everyone needs to know what they're doing. And with the border for road haulage between the UK and the EU, that is not the case. Traders, importers and exporters, there are 250,000 of them, according to HMRC, who have never traded internationally before, who've never had to fill in a customs
Just let me
form.
clarify that. They have traded internationally, but only with international countries that are in the single market. So they've never traded internationally beyond. Have I got that right? Or
Yes, you've got it. You've got it right.
so they
Absolutely.
suddenly moved
That's
from
exactly.
so you might as well, Barcelona and Birmingham would be the same in trading terms, but suddenly they're only going to be able to deal with Birmingham. They haven't got what they need in place to deal with Barcelona.
Correct. Absolutely right. At the moment, someone can deliver to Dorking or Dusseldorf, and providing you use an operator who's an international road haulage operator, there is nothing that you do that any different.
Wow.
That's the situation at the
I
moment.
see that we're both fans of alliterations as well, Duncan.
Yes. Sorry about that.
I love it.
It's the Dorking and Dusseldorf is one I've used for the last 2.5 years.
I'm having it. So looking at the looking at the numbers, and you can explain what the EORI and the TSPs are.
Yeah.
There should be just shy of 250,000 in place for both of those documents, for both of those required paperworks to trade with the EU post October the 31st. As things stand, 69,000 businesses have filled in the EORI and 17,500 have filled in the TSP. What does that mean?
Essentially, you can't operate, you can't import goods without your without an EORI number. It's a fundamental thing. Your goods will stop if you don't have an EORI number. A road haulage operator also needs an EORI number to conduct its part of the paperwork. The EORI numbers are very quick to get, and in fact that. When push comes to shove, by the time October comes around, I would expect within a week or two, people would learn that actually you're going nowhere without this. Get it done.
Good. Well, we'd urge people to do it now, then, just in case. So
we've been urging our members. because it's not just the haulage industry, it's anyone who's importing or anyone who's exporting needs to have these numbers. It's a version of a VAT number. For a company that has a VAT number, we tested it here at the Road Haulage Association. We applied for an EORI number. It took 10 minutes.
Well, that's good
literally,
news. Sort of.
Oh, yeah. No. There are things, as I say, there are things that are in place that have been done. You mentioned TSP, which is Transitional Simplified Processes, which work the idea is to take away paperwork away from the border. It doesn't take away paperwork. It just means that you do it later. Every single shipment that comes into the country will still need to have an import customs clearance process done on it. You will have to have an EORI number to be allowed to come into the UK. That's for each and every single import document. And
right.
On top of that, for the road haulage industry, the UK government has decided to follow an approach for something called safety and security declarations that requires the road haulier to resubmit all of the information and data about the about every shipment on a lorry again. Now, if you think about
every shipment on a lorry. So if I had, you could have thousands of different or hundreds of different.
We actually had one of our members bring a photograph of one of their lorries to a meeting we had with HMRC and others, and there was about 13,000 individual shipments in the lorry.
And he'd need paperwork for each one of them.
And every single one of those has to have data entry put in for them. It's a massive task. Now, of course, people will adapt. They will consolidate shipments together so that they're done in a different way. All of this takes time. But the TSP does not take away the paperwork. It just defers it. The other thing that we need to bear in mind is that European customs authorities and UK customs authorities are expecting road haulage operators to use a system of transit. In other words, you've pre-declared things before you even move. If you haven't pre-declared your goods into France, you're not even allowed on the ferry. So we knew that when we were facing the March situation, that the vast majority of lorries, the overwhelming majority of lorries, wouldn't have got on the ferries. They would have actually ended up at Manston. And that's thousands of them. And all we're trying to do as the Road Haulage Association is stop the problems.
I understand that.
There are basic facilities called offices of transit or offices of destination, offices of departure. They're not in place. There needs to be capacity for every lorry to go through a scanning check for all of the shipments that are on the lorry. And those
13,000 of them, potentially.
Yeah, but
I know that's a big example.
That's a huge and extreme example. We have also many lorries that come in with one shipment on them.
Exactly. But they still need to be scanned in a way that they don't currently.
Yeah, but the goods don't need to be scanned. It's the paperwork needs to be checked, and that you've got the valid paperwork, and it's taking everything to a different level.
And hopefully we'll talk again, because I feel we're only scratching the surface. But before you go, as I understand it, we've also got to factor in the skills and labour shortages at the ports where all this will be taking place that are currently in situ.
Well, there is a lack of qualified staff to do customs declarations. People need to understand that the people who are importing from China or America or South America now, there is an entire system. The people are in place to actually handle it. The importers know what they're doing. The exporters know what they're doing. Everyone is familiar with all of the paperwork that is required to do this work. In the case of European land-based transport, that is road haulage, those skills have largely disappeared. There is a handful, 1 or 2% of the volume deals with Turkey or Switzerland or other places where you need to do these processes now. The point is that the 98% of the lorries that don't have to do that, the capacity is not there to handle it.
Duncan Buchanan, many thanks indeed, Policy Director of the Road Haulage Association. And as we were both at great pains to express and to confirm, no vested interest. He wants things to go well because his members will suffer if they don't.